Aaron, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to talk a little bit about my research today. I figured out instead of just talk about Japan, like because I have more data, I'm going to share preliminary finding with everyone. So I'm working on cross-cultural social representation of romantic relationship in Japan, UK, and also Malaysia. Okay. Many research have said, right? So what make a good life? Okay, it's not a cholesterol, it's not about your stress level, it's not about how much money you have. Okay, research after research have shown that the key to a good life is to have a good relationship. All right. So, however, what happened to our good relationship, right? In the past 10 years, you can see since the inception of our mobile phones and technology, right? So today you can just say, I'm not sure how many of you have tried this before, okay? You can say, hey, Siri, I'm lonely, I love you. Okay, and this is one of the results that I got from the AI before, right? You know, your AI will reply you when you say then, hey, I love you. AI will say that romantic love is only between people. That means I'm your friendly assistant, but I don't do romantic relationship, for example. Not only that, okay, you can see across country, right? Our romantic relationship is challenged by different issue. Okay, so if you think about, you know, you have LGBT relationships. So is it can man married with another man, or you know, like as early as 2009, you know, a Japanese man married with a doll, right? It's called Miss Nene Anegasaki. It's a robot, right? It's a doll. And you know, all the way to 2020, 2 years ago, where another Japanese man married with another Japanese doll. Okay, and in UK itself, you know, they are challenging the doll. Should British law allow, you know, the marriage between humans and robot? Okay, and not only that, if you are familiar with Tinder, okay, you can see this is not very uncommon on Tinder, right? So the translation is I have a boyfriend, do not expect too much from my face. Okay, I'm just a normal lady with sexual desire. Okay, so I'm not sure what do you think. If you think this is something wow, something special, okay, so that is where my research come in. These are all a new phenomena when it comes to define romantic relationship, right? So when new phenomena start to influence people's daily life, okay, as a human, our first reaction is that we are very afraid about it. Usually, we are afraid of the unknown. And when we are afraid of the unknown, we will try to control it, okay? And according to social psychology theory, if you want to control, you must be able to do things. First thing, you must be able to name it. Second thing, you must be able to explain it. Okay, if you cannot do these two things, then you are not in control of the situations. So just a quick one, a little bit, because I'm doing comparison between three countries, right? Okay, so these are the two that I want to highlight. You can see long-term orientation, where Japan have the highest. Long-term orientation, the indulge, you know, the British have the highest. Of course, Malaysia champion in terms of power distance in this case. Okay, so my research question is, how do young adults in Japan, UK, and Malaysia differentiate the social representation of long-term and short-term romantic relationship? Okay, so you can see the Tinder screenshot that I showed you just now. It definitely that she has a boyfriend, but she needs something else at the same time, right? So to make you know how I run my research is very simple. Okay, I go around to people and ask people these questions. Okay, think about short-term romantic relationship. What words or phrase come to your mind? Okay, so list down 5 things for me. Think about it. Short-term romantic relationship. Whatever things that come to your mind, you list it down. Okay, so after that, I have gathered a lot of data, right? So how do I interpret it? Like everybody give me 5 things about what is short-term romantic relationship. I'm going to use, I use the theory of social representation to explain all of these findings. So a quick one, what is social representation? Social representation basically in layman is a common sense knowledge, okay? Which help people to reconstruct their reality. Okay, when something they are not familiar, so social representation help them to reconstruct their reality, which have 4 main functions. Okay, so First, social representation provides us with knowledge. Knowledge helps us to talk to people, communicate. Okay, so the knowledge helps us to form our identity. This is how Japanese define long-term relationship. This is how British define relationship. Okay, so orientation, it helps us to act. It is acceptable or not acceptable, right? To do or not to do, okay? And it helps us with justification, okay? To rationalize whether our the things that we do is okay or not okay. Okay, so what happened? This is my findings. Okay, so for short-term romantic relationship, what I found is that there is universal similarity. So for people in Malaysia, Japan, and UK, everyone thinks when they think about short-term relationship, they think that it is fun, sex, and love. Okay, so surprising, right? If you don't believe like short-term romantic relationship can have love, but the results show that love is inside. Okay, so the second finding here is that you can see people in UK can list more words. Okay, so this has to do with familiarity. Okay, so for example, if I ask you to describe winter, I'm very sure people in UK and Japan can describe using more terms in terms of for winter, while in Malaysia you cannot, because the environment itself do not have it. Okay, so what does it mean when people in UK can give more descriptions to short-term romantic relationship? It means it is common. It is common communicated between the people in UK as compared to Malaysia and Japan. Okay, so the third thing that I want to highlight is that the short-term romantic relationship in Malaysia and UK, people use short and excitement to describe it. However, you can see in Japan, the term casual is used. Okay, so the term casual is used. Okay, so if you think back to the Hofstede cultural dimension, Japan is the country that focuses on long-term orientation, right? So the opposite of casual is permanent, right? It's a long-term. I think this is one of the reasons that the culture is make them use these words to define short-term relationship, and not only that, another research from Japan figure out that the casual relationship can be really, really long. Okay, so I'm not sure, nobody define. You can see people from this country did not define how long or how short is a short-term relationship, but a researcher found that short-term relationship in Japan can be 5 years, 10 years, 15 years long. Okay, so this is one of the findings of a short-term relationship. So I also ask people about long-term relationship. Okay, again, universal, similar as the short-term relationship, is that love is that. Okay, and then trust. People from 3 countries think that trust is very important. Okay, so it's a very interesting finding for me. So marriage, okay, you can see people in Japan and UK say marriage is important. So it makes me want to question, do people in Japan and UK marriage for the same reason? Okay, is it Japan marriage for legal things or because of the social pressure? Okay, well in UK, if not mistaken, even though you are partner, but in front of the law, your status is equivalent to marriage. Okay, so the very interesting thing in Malaysia, right, a country that heavily influenced by religions, the young people do not use marriage to describe romantic relationship. There are few interpretation. Okay, one of it, maybe people in Malaysia marriage for a more practical reason, you know, for business, for some minorities still have arranged marriage, so it might be because of that that's why romantic relationship is not linked to marriage. Or another thing is that young people are really tired about marriage because marriage in Malaysia, ethnically Chinese, you know, you can have wedding ceremony up to 1,000 people that cost a lot of money. Maybe this is something that young people are really not into it. We need to do further investigation why marriage is not what Malaysian define. Okay, and then you can see you have commitment for Malaysia and UK, and commitment is not defined by the Japanese. Okay, so when I talk to the local Japanese, they think that marriage itself already include commitment. Marriage itself is a commitment. You do not need that word to define. Okay, so of course, number 4, you can see as compared to Malaysia, Japan, UK, people in Japan use more words to describe marriage. It means they are more familiar with the marriage institution. And number 5, which is very sad, I think long-term romantic relationship is not about fun. It's not about sex. It's not about excitement. And this not only happened in Japan. This happened in Malaysia, Japan, and UK. These 3 countries. Okay, so in conclusion, understanding social representation of romantic relationship could help us to better prepare for our future society 5.0. So, for example, if you want to further study in clinical psychology or family therapies, you know that sex and excitement are missing from couple relationships. So you will propose a model to fix it. Okay, we now know the social representation of short-term relationship. Okay, so I think this is one of the main contributions of my study, that we are able to define it. Is it a society taboo? So looking at how people interpret it, there's no negative words at all when people describe short-term romantic relationship. Is it more acceptable? It's going to be more and more acceptable from now onwards. Is it good or bad? So this social representation can help us to reevaluate. So do challenge, everyone, do challenge my interpretation, and you propose your counter interpretation about how I explain the findings. Okay, so
Thank you.